Is everybody hot?
Yep.
Let me know when we're ready, guys.
Ready?
Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Chief.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I have wanted to provide an update for the community as to what's been happening since January 1 and the terrorist attack. And so what I wanted to do is to introduce you to some members that you have yet to meet. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I had brought in the leading expert on terrorism in our country associated with attacks in a major city, and that is Bill Bratton, who was the former commissioner of New York City. He served 2 tenures there, and he was also the chief of police of Los Angeles, a man who is known in law enforcement circles as the leading expert. And we're very glad to be able to have secured his services to be an expert counsel to me. But today, I'm going to introduce to you 2 members of his team. Now, to my right is the former chief of the Department of New York City. This is Chief Ken Corey, to my right. The chief of the Department of New York City is actually the highest ranked commissioned officer. So just shy of 35 years, or about 35 years of service with NYPD. And to my left is Chief Brian Dugan. Now, Chief Dugan was the former chief of police of Tampa. Like myself and others, he's also a 30-plus year veteran, but Tampa has also been a host city on many occasions for Super Bowl. So we welcome his experience as well. Now, they are also a part of a larger team under the Teneo Company. So when you have seen about Bill Bratton, they are under a global risk management company known as Teneo. So there are indeed other members who have been with us and boots on the ground. So since January 1, these team members have been here at least twice. This is their second visit to the city of New Orleans. And they have been extensively studying the French Quarter, specifically Bourbon Street, giving already suggestions and options about how the city can make Bourbon safer, the French Quarter safer, but they also have been tasked to address how we make our Mardi Gras parades safer as well. And so they have had quite a tour of the city, the parade routes, and so forth. As you know, the commitment of your police department, myself, your mayor, is that we are going to maintain our traditional parade routes. There will not be a change to those parade routes. We want to keep our culture intact, but to make things safer. So more about that to follow in the future. I will say that there have also been recommendations that I also just recently alluded to. And we're going to begin publicly rolling out some of the options right now to our community. And tomorrow we are meeting with, in the afternoon, the business owners in the French Quarter. And during that meeting, we will be making some presentations to the community about options of making the Bourbon Street safer, making the French Quarter safer, because when we make things safer, then it also means some inconveniences. And I do think the city and the community needs to have a voice into those impacts and give us counsel back. We're going to give suggestions about what are the options, but we need to hear back from the public. The city council will also become involved. We are going to be doing a presentation as well to the city council about some options that they can weigh in on as the community's voice. how safe, we all share the same goal, is to make New Orleans as safe as possible. I want you to know that the city has also accepted the help of the federal government through HSI, and HSI has offered training on how to identify suspicious activity such that if you see something, say something so we can do something. And last Saturday, that training began for people in the hospitality industry. There was another training as of today, and there will be a third training tomorrow, because we need your partnership. We have done great strides in this city in lowering crime, making New Orleans safe, but it has been indeed because we're in partnership with our city. And so I want to say now that as you in the community start to think about, if you see something, say something, so we can do something, please call one of two numbers, 511, 511, just that simple. That is being stood up through the Louisiana State Police, who is in great partnership with you, as you know, with us, I should say. The other number that anyone in the community can report something that is suspicious is 1-800-434-8007. We're going to have an incredible Super Bowl. We're going to have a great and fun time. And then followed by Mardi Gras. This is a safe city. We've had a tragic event. And we will never forget what happened here, but we know and are confident that our plans are good. And so with that, Reese, if you want to open it up for a question or two.
Sure. We're going to start with WWL, and we'll end over here with Chelsea. WWL, go ahead.
I'm okay.
You good?
Yes.
Okay. Box 8.
Can you go into a little bit more explanation? I know you said tomorrow y'all will start rolling out some of these suggestions.
Yes.
For the public that's tuning in tonight, can you elaborate on any of those?
Sure, we have some options associated with the Bourbon Street and whether or not, closing streets. And that's what I mean by rolling out some options and what those impacts would look like. And our business community would be impacted, as well as the residents. Y'all know there are 3,000 residents who live in the French Quarter. I'm one of them. And so community, business, and residents need to be able to give feedback to us, but we're going to begin with the business community. It won't be the only time we will be reaching out to the public to give us feedback, but we're beginning with that particular group.
And could you also elaborate on, if someone does see something suspicious, what sort of the protocols and steps that NOPD will take to ensure that everyone does stay safe? I know yesterday I was in the quarter. I actually reported something suspicious.
Good.
And I noticed it was a fine line between not having public panic, but also checking out the item.
That's true. So you can report it to any officer you see, and our officers, as well as through these numbers, we will follow up. And like I said, even the ice chest issue, right? If you think something seems out of place, report it, and we will follow up. But you're going to have to give us enough specificity so we know who to see, touch base with, item to look at, okay? So you got to give us, don't just say a backpack. Now, if you see a backpack that's abandoned, you need to describe it, give us specifics where it is, and we will follow up, okay?
The issue.
When you talk about preparation, I know yesterday there was some work being done on bollards in the French Quarter. Can you give an update on that? Also, about a week and a half ago, there were some barriers put up in the French Quarter around Jackson Square, but also taken down.
Yes.
What was the reason for that, and where we stand on that?
Yeah, so what you saw, and I know y'all been reporting on the news, I saw it last night on the local news about all of the barriers that were being brought in on flatbed trucks. That is in preparation for Super Bowl. And as you know, we have a lot of partnership, and a lot of that is NFL security. And those are their assets that they are bringing in to what we call hardened target, the Poydras and Canal, as we prepare for the Super Bowl week. Okay, so that is the status of that. You're going to see a lot more barriers coming in and being in place. With respect to the barriers that were put up in the French Quarter the other week, that was an issue of who called whom and who approved that. And that was just an issue of we were not fully communicating as to who made the call and who should have put those up. And that's why it was not our decision to put them up in the first place, but it was our decision to say, no, we're going to pull them down now.
I also have to ask you one thing. A lot of people are keeping an eye on crime in the city. I know where we are right now with violent crimes. Just looking at some data, it seems like violent crimes are down this time compared to this time last year. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. It is. When I say our city is safer than it has been, it is indeed. I actually have the numbers. I thought I had them right here. I was just given new numbers this morning, and I will tell you they are extremely impressive.
John, we're going to come back to that. We're going to get those numbers.
Yeah, I will tell you that, as you know, last January, we had a total of 18 homicides last January. Today, we sit at 20 murders. I should use the term murder, not homicide. Those are different numbers. So last year, we had 18 for the total of the month of January. Today, if we were looking at like categories, and I have to say this because it's really important. Whenever I talk about a stat or a number, I am not unmindful that that represents a person who has lost their job, lost their life to violence, and there's grieving families. The terrorist victims were 14 of our 20 who died this January. If you were to only look at like categories, though, because most of our murders are shootings, we are at 6 today. So 6 compared to 18 last year, we are indeed becoming more and more safe. And that is not being toned up to our victims of the terrorist attack. But when we look at our strategies and are they having impact, 18 to 6 for shooting deaths. That's why I make the comparison. And we will always run those terrorist victims in our numbers, but that's the distinction between them. Okay? All right.
Jonah, we're going to come back and give you just a little bit more in a second, but for now, we're going to go to Gina now. Go ahead, Gina.
Yeah. Oh, here they are. So we will give these to all of you. So before we go there, let me just finish this remark. So as of this morning, we had a 65% reduction in shooting murders, 65% reduction. In our non-fatal shootings, as of last year, which was a record year, as you know, we're down 31%. In armed robberies, we're down 69%. And then for carjackings is the other measurement we give you regularly, we're down 67%. And last year, those stats were the lowest, with one exception, in 60 years. So we're still on track for making New Orleans safer and safer.
Gina, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is kind of going off of Chris too with the see something, say something. I know you talked about the HSI training with the community, hospitality, community, the group. Kind of talk about what actually goes into training for something like that. Because I mean, I know you're always out here talking, see something, say something, but how do you necessarily train?
You know something, have you ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? It's actually a very good read, and what it does, it helps frame your thinking to understand. We look at things all the time and we go, gee, that seems suspicious. And what we do is we train people how to articulate that. Why does that look suspicious? Can you put words to what you're looking at? And so it's raising consciousness. We do it all the time. Something doesn't seem right. You did it yesterday. Something didn't seem right. It's learning to look at things a little bit differently and go, that seems out of place. And it's raising consciousness is what it is. And it's in a classroom environment. You help people with scenarios. What do you think you're looking at?
And I guess just how important do you think that's going to be in terms of, moving forward into this Super Bowl season and Mardi Gras, training this specific group, rather than just, going on TV, just saying, hey, everybody, see something, say something?
Because those are sometimes the first responders in a way. They are in the hospitality industry. They're engaging with visitors. They actually are really very much boots on the ground. And so that's why we want to start with people like that who are in those industries, and they're out in the streets all the time in the hospitality industry. So that's why it's just a matter of a classroom in which, raising consciousness. What are you looking at?
Okay, AP?
What does a safe Super Bowl look like in your view?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your
What
question.
does a safe Super Bowl look like in your view?
Much like our Taylor Swift weekend. Everybody having a great time, everybody having engaging, and everybody truly being safe and just having fun. That's what I think, and having very few, if no, incidents. I think Taylor Swift was a model example of how we did crowd management for a very large event, 3 days in a row.
Okay, we're gonna go back to Gabby, and then we're gonna go
Okay.
over to
Well,
Ford.
this was just out of the Taylor Swift thing.
Oh, go ahead.
But the Taylor Swift fans are not like Philadelphia fans.
I didn't quite hear that, so I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the.
Taylor Swift fans are not like Philadelphia fans.
Oh, is that what it is? They like the Chiefs, of course. We're factoring that in, actually.
Well, no, I'm saying Taylor Swift fans are different than Philadelphia fans. And I'm actually concerned about the Philadelphia fans from what I'm seeing on TV. Are y'all in any way concerned about Philadelphia fans getting rowdy?
No. And I'm going to say because, we expect the fan base to root and cheer for their team. Someone's going to lose. Someone's going to win. And so I think that we have proven as well here in New Orleans that our crowd control and our management, we're a very tolerant city, but we are not a city that is going to put up with lawlessness. You can be tolerant without being lawless. And so is the intervention. But no, I think both fan bases will be well behaved. How do you like that?
I'm praying.
Okay, there you go.
Go ahead, Gabby.
Hi, Chief. Gabby Phillip with Times-Picayune. I'm curious, do y'all have a specific rollout plan for the different agencies? I know you always say, these big events are multi-agency
Correct.
Plans. I'm curious if, I know sometimes there's LSP in the French Quarter or Homeland Security in this section. I'm just curious if you can tell me where certain people will be throughout the city.
I can, and actually I'm going to have the Chief of Patrol speak to that because we do have this pretty well mapped out. So go ahead.
Thank you.
So to answer your question, we have been in talks with the various federal agencies. We do know where they're going to be. We're not going to divulge that right now. They're going to have multiple tactical teams. They're going to have undercover officers. And what we're going to do is spread them out not only in the dome, but also the exterior of the dome, in the French Quarter, and the CBD. So they'll be responsible for different geographical areas, and their duties will be responding to those areas that require their help.
Thank you.
All right?
I have
Go ahead, Jack.
one-
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have one more question for the chief.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm curious if you can expand a little bit on how Mr. Bratton's team specifically will assist in the Super Bowl. I know, you talked already about potentially closing streets or just overall working with French Quarter.
So I do want to remind people, the Super Bowl planning has been underway for 18 months, okay? And they are, the lead agency associated with Super Bowl planning is the NFL security team, led by Chief Kathy Lanier. And so we are absolutely, they actually all know each other. This team, the Teneo team, knows everybody. So they absolutely have had conversations. They are in lockstep with them, but the lead agency for Super Bowl is NFL security, okay?
Okay, Jack?
Yeah,
Thank you.
has the federal funds freeze in any way affected Super Bowl planning and?
The federal
preparations?
funding?
Yes, the executive order freezing federal aid.
Oh, yes, it does. And so, as you know, those emergency declarations by the governor, as well as the Tier 1 level that we got to bump up, that has affected how the resources, we have a lot more resources available to us.
But with the recent executive order, is that in any way affecting the flow of funds available for Super Bowl security and preparations?
He's talking about the pause.
Yes,
federal
pause, yeah.
I actually don't know that I can speak to that in any way. Y'all have had that kind of experience, but I don't, when you say has it affected, I'm not sure. The positive impact is that there is a lot of an open purse that we would have been more restricted in the purse than we are now because of these declarations.
But you're not seeing, like, because of that executive order, you're not seeing any impacts in terms of the funding that the city may be receiving from the federal government for preparations?
No, I haven't.
Chief,
Yeah.
I think, just to clarify,
Yeah.
today President Trump signed an executive order pausing federal grants and federal loans. I think what he's
Oh,
trying to
I
ask
did not know
is
that. I
if
haven't
that
seen the
is
news today. That makes a
possibly-
difference.
If that is
Thank you for
possibly-
sharing that with me,
Yes,
because I
yeah.
didn't
I think
know.
he's trying to ask, is that possibly impacting?
Well, I don't know, obviously,
federal
because I didn't know
resources
about it. I may know tomorrow.
Yeah.
How about
I'm
that?
being clear about
Yeah,
that.
but thank you for sharing that, Chris. I did not know.
You got a question, sir?
In terms of the plans that you'll be rolling out to the business community tomorrow, do those involve the full pedestrianization of any part of the French Quarter or Bourbon Street?
Yeah, would you feel comfortable addressing that for them? Sure. I'm going to let the chief here to address that.
No, good afternoon. As the chief said, presenting a very broad idea, I wouldn't even call it a plan at this point, right? To merchants and residents in the French Quarter, outlining what that security plan would look like. At the high end of that would be a pedestrianization of Bourbon Street, right? That absent legitimate deliveries and other business constrained to certain hours, Bourbon Street would be closed to any sort of vehicular traffic other than emergency vehicles, obviously, and that would include traffic crossing Bourbon Street. Traffic would not be allowed to cross Bourbon. And then, obviously, from that, very broad idea, very hard idea, it can be softened in various ways, and that's why the chief wants to get the input from the community.
What, I guess, is that what you all are recommending in terms of security for Bourbon Street? Like, what?
So that would be the perfect level of security, right? If you want to protect against another vehicle ramming type attack, the only way to do that the only way to fully do that is to prevent any sort of vehicular access to the area that you're trying to protect.
And what would be the timeline for something like that? I mean, you said it's not even a plan, it's a concept at this point, so we're talking certainly not for Mardi Gras or Super Bowl.
No, thank you for that, Chief. No, we've got our plans in place for Super Bowl. We've got our plans in place for not fully for Mardi Gras, because we're going to add some more things, and I can't speak to those yet. What we're talking about is the long-range plan. Okay, the long-range plan. What would be the suggestion to pedestrianize the Bourbon? That is a community decision, because there are impacts. And that's why the community should have a voice. The business community should have a voice. We will present options, but that will be a community's decision, because if you completely, permanently make the Bourbon a pedestrian route, you will have impacts. And I think people want to be able to say, hey, have you thought about X, Y, Z? Have you thought about the fire trucks? Have you thought about ambulances? These are things we've already begun having those kind of conversations. So when we have our meetings, the fire chief is there. The EMS chief is there. We got to hear from a lot of people, right? So we're at that stage of getting their suggestions and ideas, preliminary, and then starting to roll them out so we can get community decision. This is a community partnership, folks. So, but fair question.
Last
Anything
question
else?
was to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief. My understanding is that some of the NFL infrastructure, security infrastructure, is going to stick around for Mardi Gras. Can you speak to, like,
That's correct.
we mentioned barriers in the French Quarter, like what pieces might hang around?
Right,
for a
and so
while?
when you ask me about the Mardi Gras, because we do know many of those assets will stay, and the question will be, well, how will we stage them? But the assets will stay, and when I speak of assets, I'm talking barriers, okay? And how would those be positioned, and which barriers where, okay? So that's a fair question, and that's what we know to be the case.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you all for coming
Thank you,
out. We
everyone.
appreciate it.
And if you want stats, here they are. We can disseminate those to you. Okay? Appreciate it.
Oh, real quickly, Chief Gantier is gonna give us a quick update about the fatality on the twins.
Oh, yeah, there was an accident, I understand, just within the last hour to hour and a half. So Chief Gantier, I'll let you take the podium.
I know. Don't turn on. Thank you. Robin, don't turn on the camera.
Is that what we're?
Yes, yes, yeah.
All right, Chief Gantier, can you give us an update on the fatality on the twin span, please?
All right, this is preliminary right now. What we have is a call of an accident on the twin span heading towards New Orleans involving a box truck and possibly another vehicle. The reason I say possibly is because we can't see the vehicle right now, as we believe the truck is actually on top of the vehicle. What I'm hearing, it's a box truck, it's not an 18-wheeler, but what we have is the St. Tammany divers went in, and they're working to secure that truck first before they can actually go down and make sure that it was a vehicle, and we don't know how many people were in the vehicle, so we're not gonna say how many people were in the vehicle yet until we know, one, there's definitely a vehicle underneath that truck, and then two, how many people were in that truck and what casualties we have. But that is all we have right now. We have our dive teams heading over there as well to assist, and we certainly want to thank the St. Tammany Sheriff's Office for getting there rather quickly, as it is on a twin span. They were closer, and that is all we have.
Okay, we will send a press release out concerning that fatality a little bit later. All right, thank y'all for coming out.